Okay, this tutorial is going to go over how to acknowledge an order once we receive the deposit. The first thing that we need to double check is that there is a Dropbox folder for that location. So when you go into Dropbox, you go to Orders, and then to the client, that the rep who the client is for. So this is for Stark, which means it's Jim Clark, and we're going to go to the bottom, and we will go to Start Carpet. And I do have 6. We received 1 check for these 6 invoices. I'm going to do these 2, and I'm going to let you do these 3 because it will be an identical sequence of doing them. So now that we know that we have everything here, we're going to go back into SweetFlow. So back at the home screen, we're here. We're going to come over to, we've already searched for Stark, and we're going to come over to the orders right here. And this lets us know how many orders Stark already has with us in existence that are in SweetFlow in particular. So what we're going to do is click on that order button, and it's going to bring up all the orders that they have with us. And this right here listed are the side marks. So you can easily find what side mark you're looking for just by what order you're looking for just by the side mark. The easiest way to do it, however, is here at the order number. So the order number I'm looking for is number 575. So I'm going to come over and I am going to click on this menu button icon, and that's going to take me straight to that order screen for this specific order. So it's already got the relevant information in here, and then it's got the picture linked to it, which you can see here, and this information is already input. So the only thing that I really need to do is put in the payment amount. If you do need to make adjustments, you can always do that here if there's anything that needs to be edited, but there isn't. So we're just going to come over here to invoices, to this tab. We are also going to make sure that we always put it in the checks because we want to maintain in our ledger, it lets us know how we received it. And if we do it in cash or even a card, we can't really use the check number, which I always like to put. So for this amount that was due, it was $485, and that was the portion of the check that was attributed to it. So the check number is $1356.33. And in our ledger notes, we're going to put deposit. And I always put a note here, whether it's for deposit, whether it's for delivery, for samples, for the final payment. I always put that in there so that if we ever have to look at the ledger, we can easily say, okay, this is what that check payment was for. And then we're going to apply the check payment. This portion takes the longest for acknowledging. Acknowledging the order is going to take the longest time in SweetFlow because depending on which rep it is, the ledger is so long, and you can see the notes here, deposit, and it tells you what the check was, the number, and the amount. Depending on the ledger length, it needs to process more information. So Jim Clark has a very, very, very long ledger, which means his time takes the most. So I am going to pause it here, and then we'll meet back up once it's already processed. Once we get back to the next menu. Okay, so that loading screen, I timed it. It took 7 minutes. So during that time, you don't have to sit there and stare at the screen. I highly recommend not doing that. It's super boring and it stresses you out. So just plan on while you're doing this to have something side by side that you can do at the same time. But you need to be at your computer because you'll forget, because I have. So anyway, now that we're back at this screen, we're going to come down here to notes and also put deposit here as well. This is just so from orders you can see that this is a deposit, whereas this one you can tell from the ledger, if you're looking at the ledger, what it is. Okay, so then we're going to go back to detail, and we're going to click on this box. So when you make a payment, it automatically makes an invoice. You can force it by coming to the steps and clicking on new invoice. but it doesn't really help in the long run. So click on invoices and it's going to take you to the invoice screen. And it has all the information here. And you'll notice that here it says locked. The screen is currently locked, which means you're not going to be able to adjust information here. Can't do anything. So the only thing you can do is change the form. You can come here and unlock it, or you can do these. That's about it. So when you do this, this just means that you want it unlocked. To unlock it this way, this is one of two ways. You need to come out of, click to orders, go back to the original order, then go back to that invoice. It has to reset the entire screen for this to truly unlock. Because if I click this, lock, the screen's not actually locked. I can edit. That just tells you what you want it to do after you exit. The other way you can do it is hold down the control button and click on status, and that is going to relock the screen. And to do it again, I'm going to hold down the control button and unlock the status. That seems to be the fastest way for me. It keeps me from coming in and out. I feel like it saves me time. So you're going to make sure that the form name is acknowledgement at this point. You don't need to change the invoice date. The due date is automatically calculated from the terms, which is the lead time. So you're going to come to the preview, which is the magnifying glass, and here you have it. It's got the picture already inserted, the information is already put in. This is when we receive the deposit, this is the expected finish date. It's got all the relevant information at this point. So again, you're going to Control-0 or come down to the unlock status bar, and you're going to save as a PDF. So you're going to make sure that you go to the right folder for it, and this is 575. So we're going to double click it, and we're going to adjust this to acknowledgement, ACK, and we're going to save it. You're going to print, and then you're also going to scan all of the documents that are included. That includes the deposit request, the check slip that comes with it, this acknowledgement on top, the PO if it comes with it, and sometimes they send pictures, sometimes they send drawings, but all of that is going to be compiled in one place, and you're going to create a scan of it. So when you're finished, you're going to save it in here in your Dropbox folder, and just name it invoice, whatever number it is, and scan. So when you open it up, you're going to see the acknowledgement on top, followed by the deposit request. Not all orders are going to have a deposit request, so if you don't have one, don't freak out. You don't need to make one if they sent money without needing it. But if it does, it needs to be in this order where it's acknowledgement on top, then the deposit request, and then our quote, and their PO. We do need to have a electronic copy of the PO, so if we ever needed to reference this, say in 2 years, or like, hey, I ordered this and I need to know this information for blah blah blah, we can easily pull it up. Sometimes they add pictures to it, sometimes they add just like the picture of it, or sometimes there's a drawing. That all needs to be in it. And then this is the check stub. We do need to have this in there as well. Alright, so now we're going to do the next one, and that is order 576. One way that you can also do that is, let's say you have just finished printing. We're going to go back to this screen. So let's say you just printed, right? Print, you can push continue, and you can go back to the order that you were already at. And this is only applicable if this is with the same company, okay? So if you had like 2 Pimlico orders, you could still stay right here, go back to your order, and go to the next one. So this is the next one in the series that we'll be doing. But I find that the easiest way to do it, not to get confused and not to put wrong information there, is just go back to the home screen, come to your orders, and make sure that you're picking the correct one. So the next one is this 576. We're going to go through. Okay, so the amount due and the amount paid for this is $480, $1356.33 for the check number, and this is the deposit. And we can apply the check amount. Again, this is going to take a little bit, so I'll see you once we get to that. Okay, so we're back to this screen. I have actually already made the acknowledgement, but I reset everything, that way you could still follow through. And the reason I did that is so that I can make a scan so that you could see what it looks like when it comes in. Okay, so the date has already been set for today, and again, you're just going to go to the notes and make it a deposit. The only time you're going to change this date is if, let's say, you just didn't get, usually what happens to me is I didn't get to it that day, so I'll have to do it the next day. So really, this is on a Friday, so if I needed to change it to a Monday, that is the 16th. So it would say 16, I just need to change it to 13. And when you do that, you're going to come to invoices. If I did invoice this on Monday instead of Friday, I would also need to change it here. And that will automatically change the date, the due date as well. Okay, so this is a locked screen. You're going to press Control and the status, where it says status, and it's going to unlock the screen. You're going to change the form name to say Acknowledgement. So here is where you would change it. Let's say I actually acknowledged it on the 16th. You change it to the 13th and it automatically changes the due date. And then preview it at the magnifying glass, and the picture and all the information pops up. You're going to push Control-0 or go to Scripts, Unlock Status Bar, and we're going to save as a PDF in the corresponding Dropbox folder, so 576, and the acknowledgement is already here. I like to just click if there's a deposit request. I find it's easier to just clear it and push ACK for acknowledgement. I think that's quicker than typing everything out. But you will usually, if there wasn't a deposit request before, you'll need to type it out as start carpet _ACK, and ACK doesn't need to be capitalized. I just find if I capitalize it, it draws my eyes right to it. So there's a difference between DR, deposit request, ACK, acknowledgement, and FI for final invoice. My eye is immediately drawn to the all caps, so I immediately can pick it out. And then the number 300, 576, save. And it's going to ask me if I want to replace it. I'm not. It's the same thing, but anyway. So then you're going to print this, and we'll scan. And when you scan, you're going to want to put the acknowledgement on top, which is why you print. And then underneath is the deposit request, if we have one. The picture's been updated since then. Then the PO, or our original quote. We don't have one here, so we just put the PO. And then this is what they sent with it, with their check. I always just, since I staple it to it, I input it. So I'll just put it on the back. There is also a check stub to go behind it, but that's already been put on one of the previous scans, so we don't need to include it on this one. So when we save it, we're going to rename it, maybe. Rename it as INV for invoice, and then the invoice number 300, 576, and then scan. And we scan this so we have a electronic copy of all of this information, so we can reference it in the future without having to pull the physical copy from wherever, from storage or whatever, as well as the drafter does look at the scan, and if there are multiple pictures, he'll look at it. There's also this information listed here to let him know how it's going to be built so that he can put that into the AutoCAD. So it's very relevant information. Pretty simple, nothing big really pops up. Yeah.